But someone else I caught up with today was Joe Hockey, the former Australian Treasurer, former Australian Ambassador to the US. Here's my chat with him. Joe Hockey, what did you make of the speech today?
Well, I expected it. I think we all did, didn't we? It was the disruptive speech from someone who has a mandate to be disruptive.
The incredible thing about it was he mentioned so many policy initiatives. There's some already underway in a way, but others, he's signing them today, straight into it, hundreds of executive orders. Is it really going to shake up the country?
Oh, totally. It'll shake up the world. There's no doubt in my mind that he is absolutely convinced there are no handbrakes anymore. Normally, as you know, Chris, normally a political leader would be thinking about the next election, or they'd be thinking about their career after politics, or they'd be thinking about whether they're acting legally or not. Donald Trump doesn't think about any of those things because he's beaten them all.
It's like Eminem. This is his one shot, right? And he's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the Supreme Court as well.
But he's got a mandate. And, you know, that's why you look around this town and there's no resistance movement this time. There's no one out there saying, you know, he hasn't got a mandate or what he's doing is wrong, because it's the blue-collar Democrat voters that are backing him on a lot of his initiatives.
Just on that, before we get to the other big issues, the people here in town this week, the Trump supporters, they've come from all around the country, some even from overseas. There's a vibe about it, isn't it? Now, they're disappointed they're not doing all the events outdoors today. They probably could have, the way the weather turned out. But they are optimistic, they are patriotic, they are very friendly in this town this week.
Yes, it's a very different vibe to 2016, the last Trump inauguration, where you know, a whole lot of people felt he wasn't legitimate. But there's no argument about his legitimacy, and I think importantly he better reflects the mood of the American people today than he did in 16. I mean, they've had enough of cost of living pressures. They've had enough of illegal immigration, of fentanyl, of crime on the streets. They've had enough of you know, being pushed around by the rest of the world, and I think Donald Trump better reflects the mood of the American people today.
Now, you talk about how his second presidency is going to shake up the world. It already has, really, in the Middle East. But the next big challenge is tariffs and trade. Now, he's signing executive orders today on tariffs. To what extent will Australia suffer?
Well, we suffer indirectly because, you know, I've tried with him personally and indirectly. Donald Trump doesn't appreciate that tariffs are, in fact, a tax on your own people.
Yeah.
And so it's going to increase the cost of living for everyday Americans. And that's where the rubber hits the road. He can't, on the one hand, direct the new administration to reduce inflation and at the same time impose tariffs, but he's going to do it. Now, what does that mean? The decisions he makes in America do affect Australia. If he cuts taxes, if we don't cut taxes and follow, then we're going to be uncompetitive. If he's cutting regulation, we've got to follow and cut regulation to remain competitive. It's as simple as that. We're not a big enough economy to veer at a very different angle to the US.
Now, Joe Hockey, I've got to get your thoughts on the other big story of the day, and that is what the outgoing President Joe Biden has done. Just extraordinary, these last-minute pardons. We heard the initial ones against the government officials, pardons for government officials like Dr. Anthony Fauci. I disagree with it, but it's understandable, I suppose, in the political cut and thrust that he'd want to protect him from vengeance from an incoming administration. But Joe Biden's brothers and sister, this smacks of a family worried about these allegations that it's enriched itself while in power.
Well, and it was lacking in courage because it wasn't even released within a time that would allow Biden to explain it. He released it 10 minutes before the swearing in of the new president. And, you know, Joe Biden should have been better than that. Senior Democrats I've spoken to are hugely disappointed about it because, you know, after arguing that sort of thing would never happen, Joe Biden then went and did it with his own son and then doing it with the rest of his family. So, again, what that's done is it's taken whatever air was left in the tyres of the Democrats, it went out today.
How are Anthony Albanese, Penny Wong and Kevin Rudd going to do getting to know and work with the new administration?
Well, they've got to work hard. They've got to get to know him and build a relationship with Donald Trump. Trump. That's a cold air, actually. That's right. And so they've got to build a personal relationship with him. And that's hard to do. I mean, you've got to have common ground, and there's not a natural common ground between those three people and Donald Trump, despite Kevin Rudd's newfound love of golf, which I never knew. We're all golfers, aren't we?
Well, if you see any video of Kevin Rudd on the golf course, send them to us, please. We'll run them on Sky News.
I can't wait.
Thanks so much for joining us, Joe.
Thanks very much, Chris.